And we have some breaking news, some stunning news out of London. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested, presumably in connection with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to go straight to our foreign correspondent, James Longman.
Hi, George. Yes, extraordinary news out of the UK this morning. The former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has this morning been arrested on the Sandringham estate where he was living after having been removed, of course, from the home he was living in Windsor. The Thames Valley Police, the police here in the UK, put out a statement. They haven't named him specifically, but they are saying a man in his 60s has been arrested. As part of the investigation, they say we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. They say the man remains in police custody at this time. They are not, like I say, naming Andrew, but we know that it is him. This pertains to emails, we believe, that were published recently in the most recent Epstein files published by the Department of Justice, which seem to suggest, they allege that Andrew was forwarding emails to Jeffrey Epstein whilst he was trade envoy here in the UK. Now, as a public official, that is misconduct. That is what the police are alleging. That's the charges that they presumably are bringing to him if they do indeed charge him. He is under arrest and remains in custody for that. We will wait and see what further details they are yet to give us. But, you know, as trade envoy, he spent more than 10 years travelling around the world on behalf of the British government to kind of foment relationships with other countries to better Britain's kind of economic outlook, if you like. That was seen as a member of the royal family could do this. You know, his status would provide Britain with that kind of heft on the world stage. But the emails from the Department of Justice suggest that when he was in these conversations in places like Singapore, Hong Kong, I've got a list here in front of me, other countries that he went to, he would then have these kind of confidential documents in these emails, and then it looks like he was forwarding them on to Jeffrey Epstein, another one here from Vietnam, another from China. So if you look at the date on some of these emails as well, that is what is interesting. One of them here in front of me from 2010. Of course, that's well after Jeffrey Epstein had already faced charges for soliciting sex from a minor. So that goes to the heart of this entire issue around Andrew and Epstein. The relationship that he had with that convicted sex offender went far beyond the time which he said that he had broken all contact with him. People at home might remember the disastrous interview he gave in 2019 to the BBC, where he said that he had travelled to the United States, to New York, to sever his ties with Jeffrey Epstein, that he was there to basically explain to him that he no longer wanted to be in communication with him. These emails from the Department of Justice suggest that that was not true, that he basically lied about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in that interview. He has always denied, we should say, any wrongdoing when it comes to the allegations about sex trafficking. Virginia Giuffre, of course, the individual who alleged that she was sex trafficked by Epstein for sex with Andrew, he has denied that strenuously. We haven't had comment from him or the palace on these latest allegations about emails to Jeffrey Epstein in his position as trade envoy. But one imagines that at some point today, Buckingham Palace will have to release some kind of statement. They are yet to comment. But we are in the extraordinary situation where the brother of the king has been arrested. To my mind, that has never happened in the modern history of the royal family. Certainly, this has shaken this country. It's been a long time coming. I think many people would look at this and say, Andrew should have faced justice a long time ago. Many others will say, well, this is a shock today to find that he's been arrested in this way.
It was shocking to all of us, no question about that, James. Let me bring that to Robert Jobson, our royal contributor. James just said it. To his memory, it's never happened in the modern royal family. Do you have any sense that anything like this has ever happened before?
No, they've just had minor road traffic incidents that Princess Anne was arrested over a dog. No, this is truly historic. This is seismic, George. I mean, this has serious implications for the monarchy in this country. The reality is this man still is in line to the succession, but for a moment of quirk of fate, he could have been the man who was the king. This is really shocking beyond belief. The police on royal estates, the fact that on his 66th birthday, no less, he's been arrested. He's now going to have to give evidence, have to give a report be interviewed under caution. So that, this is now getting to a very serious stage. This, of course, is nothing to do with the Epstein and the sex trafficking side of things. This is purely to do with the envoy.
Right, and releasing this sensitive, classified information. Forgive me if this is an uninformed question, but could something like this happen without the acquiescence of the Queen?
Well, what we do know is that it was the Queen that pushed for Andrew to be that special advisor. We do know that the current King, when he was made the special envoy after leaving the Royal Navy, made it very clear that he didn't think it was a good idea. He thought that Andrew should just focus on doing royal duties and not take on an official role until, in terms of working alongside the government in this way, until it was cleared, until he fully understand what was involved. I'm sure that the King has got his head in his hands about this at the moment. This really is a seismic moment, I've said, for the monarchy. I do believe, well, nothing like this has ever happened before. And I didn't actually think it would, even with all the pressure, that it would actually reach that stage again. This is going to be a hugely complex case. And of course, he doesn't have immunity. The King can't be tried in his courts in this country. But we have this issue here that if there's evidence that comes out here that the King knew, and the King would actually have to give evidence in a court of law, that would collapse the case, like it did, if you remember, in 2002 with the Burrell case, when the Queen suddenly remembered she'd had been told things by Burrell that he was keeping Diana's things for safekeeping. Now, that led to the collapse of the case. It truly is a seismic moment for this country, and I think for the monarchy as well.
Do you think that the King is going to have something to say about this?
Well, if he doesn't, I think he should, because I think that at the end of the day, he is not only the head of state, he is also the head of the nation, if you like, and he's responsible for leading the monarchy, which is part of this constitutional parliamentary democracy. The problem, of course, will be now that this is a police case, and this means a lot of this conjecture that's been going on has to stop. Now, we have to wait and see if Andrew is actually charged. Once the moment is that he's charged with anything, then, of course, all this conjecture has to stop in the media and it becomes a police case. So that makes it difficult for the King to make a statement. But trust in the monarchy will be at an all-time low at the moment. And I think that at some stage, whether it's at the end of this or even just now, there needs to be some statement from the King and from the palace, and to make sure that people understand that this is an accountable institution that will go forward will be transparent and abide by the law. We had the Prime Minister this morning on television saying no one is above the law, and it looks like that's the case.
How serious a threat to the monarchy is this?
I think it is an existential threat. I think that the monarchy depends upon the trust of the people. It depends on, for the system to operate, they are an unelected institution. It may be, if the King is involved in being seen to be part of a cover-up, that it could have serious implications for him. And maybe, I don't know, maybe what goes forward. I mean, the two people that clearly are clear in all of this are William and Catherine. And it's clear, it seems, that William, I remember that William, many years ago when Andrew was at the Garter ceremony, wanted to go to the Garter ceremony, and William said, look, if he's there, I'm not going. And that was like 6 years ago. And he put his foot down.
But just to be clear, this all happened when the King was Prince of Wales, and we have no evidence that Andrew and the Prince were then talking about these matters.
Well, I do know, I mean, we don't have evidence, no, but I do know that it was discussed, and I do know that the King and Andrew had a meeting and talked about it, and Andrew gave his reassurances, probably similar to what he said on the BBC in that catastrophic Newsnight interview, that there was, he had nothing to hide, he hadn't done anything wrong. But I think this is a lot to do with the Epstein sexual allegations, not necessarily this stuff on his role as a misconduct in a public office. We did not know the extent of that, and we didn't know that until the Mandelson, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Britain and former person that was the former Washington ambassador, until he got arrested. So all of this has been emerging at a very fast rate, and the most important thing now is that he has to give evidence under caution. He has to give a witness statement under caution. We don't know if he's going to be charged yet. I should imagine that will take a bit of time, but this is a very fast-moving story, George, and historic.
Let me go back to James Long. Are we learning anything new, James?
Well, I think one of the things that stands out for me, George, is that the properties that are being searched now by the police, I mean, we're in this extraordinary situation where properties belonging to the King are being searched because, remember, Prince Andrew, as he was then, was moved from the home that he lived in Windsor to the Sandringham estate, which is the private estate of the King. It's not a public palace. This is owned by the royal family privately. So you ask whether or not the King would have given his permission for this to have happened. The police arriving at the King's private estate, one imagines there must have been some kind of coordination. The royal family have in the last few weeks been very, very clear about trying to move themselves away from this entire scandal, to lean in very heavily to speaking about the Epstein survivors. When asked about this, and Camilla, Charles, Edward, they've all been heckled in public spaces, asked about Andrew. They can feel the pressure over this, and time again, they have directed people to looking at the Epstein victims and saying that their hearts are with them, that the focus should be on them. So that is the palace's way of saying that we're on their side and that perhaps Andrew, they're going to cooperate with the police in as much as they can. But they are hamstrung here. You know, the King Charles, and as much as his effort will now be to try to save the monarchy, because make no bones about it, that is what this will be about for Buckingham Palace. At the same time, he's hamstrung because this is now a police investigation, so he will be limited in what he can say. And that is why I think whenever they are asked, they do say, well, our hearts are with the Epstein victims. Once again, we should separate what's happened here from the crimes that Epstein committed. This is about the relationship that Andrew seems to have had with Epstein beyond that, and the relationship that he had when he was trade envoy, sharing government secrets perhaps with Jeffrey Epstein as late as 2010. Nevertheless, the royal family knows about the optics of all this, and they will want to show that they are on the side of the public, not on Andrew's side.
And James, as Robert Jobson said, this is an existential threat, perhaps to the monarchy. We also know with these revelations about Peter Mandelson, the former trade minister, former ambassador to the United States for the UK, that this could also be a threat to the current British government.
Absolutely. Peter Mandelson was at the heart of the Labour movement. He was part of the Labour government with Tony Blair. He built Labour alongside Tony Blair and was in the Labour government at a time when he also seems to have been in communication with Jeffrey Epstein, sharing information with him as business envoy, and that for possibly, allegedly, financial gain on behalf of Peter Mandelson. So this goes to the heart of British institutions writ large, the monarchy and the British government. Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister here, is fighting for his political life, make no bones about it. I mean, he's already in a very weak position politically, but his adversaries here in Britain, his political adversaries, have smelled blood with this Mandelson scandal. They're waiting perhaps later, and we have local elections here later in the year, when perhaps Keir Starmer might end up losing his position as Prime Minister as a result directly of this Epstein scandal, because of the closeness that he's perceived to have had with Peter Mandelson and his decision to make him ambassador to the United States. So on every level, Britain is being rocked by the Epstein scandal, George.
James Longman, thanks very much. As Robert Jobson said, seismic news out of the United Kingdom this morning. The former Prince Andrew has been arrested. We're going to return now to our regular program. We'll have much more on Good Morning America.